Welcome to Bible for Overcomers. So I want to talk about Project Nimrod, this is the one thing that is happening at the behest of the globalists, with the encouragement of very many naive people, virtue signaling types. And what it is doing is causing chaos in this world. And that is Project Nimrod is the organized, I should say, relocation of blocks of people, a lot of people. Not as you would read in the Old Testament law about a stranger who's destitute, who comes into the land, sort of a Ruth scenario. No, we're talking about an organized effort to do away with national identity, totally. You know where I'm going. This is the setup for Antichrist. This is what Antichrist needs and wants. The spirit of Antichrist is all about forcing everybody, mixing everybody to the nth degree, tearing down borders, tearing down national identities, tearing down differences, and even tearing down, that's right, genders. So you understand how the transgender thing is it's all related. And this movement of peoples, this worshiping the statue, like the Jews in the captivity, worshiping Nebuchadnezzar's gold statue. This is worshiping, they've got us all propagandized to worship this idea that somehow diversity is the great duty, the most noble aspiration of mankind. And I'm going to show you from the Bible why it is not. Now, let me just preface it by saying, before I get into the scriptures, nobody needs to comment and give me a little lesson on diversity. I went several years through New York City public schools. I've been mugged a couple times. I've lived around more people of different ethnicities and different religions than most people have. So I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. I also am a student of history, and I see what's going on now. Presently, as I'm doing this video, there are all kinds of riots, violence, and mob beatdowns of native British people that is occurring. And so God is not the author of confusion. Satan is. And this Project Nimrod has been going on for a while, but it's really picked up steam now. It's the perfect setup for Antichrist and more global control. That's why you have global organizations, almost all of them, are financing, bankrolling, propagandizing about why this is everyone's duty to basically tear down your border and let everybody in. Again, this is a long way from a stranger needing help. This is a totally different thing. So let's just look here. Genesis chapter 9, the ark comes down, Noah builds a vineyard, he gets drunk, and so we have his three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Actually, Japheth is the eldest. And it's sort of like Anthropology 101, because here in chapter 9 and verses 25, 26, and 27, there's some very specific prophecies that are given out. Obviously, there's exceptions to the general rule, but these are the prophecies that were given out. Now, Canaan, because of what Ham had done, Ham's descendant Canaan was cursed. Now the Canaanites become spread out throughout what is now called the Holy Land, and they did make up the 7 tribes that had gone into full degeneracy that God ordered his people to invade and to obliterate. They did some other things too, and so here we're going to pick it up in Genesis chapter 10. I'm going to read fast. We got some scriptures to cover. Please be open to the scriptures. Be open to God. It's not about left, right, up, down, what you see on your favorite news channel. Let's just look at what the Bible has to say, and then we'll step back and think about what we're seeing. Jesus says, you will know a tree by the fruit that it bears. I can see, and anybody should see, the fruit that globalism and its designs of forced relocations of people is doing right now. There are many cities on fire. Let's just put it that way. Crime spikes, a lot of violence against women. Let's look here. Genesis chapter 10. These are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were born sons after the flood, sons of Japheth. And then we get verse 6, the sons of Ham. And the sons of Ham, Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. Okay, and verse 8, and Cush begat Nimrod. Nimrod, he began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning, the very important word that I've never noticed before today, the beginning of his kingdom, because it's still being built. The beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar, which is present-day Iraq. And out of that land went forth Assur, and he built Nineveh and the city. Okay, and then it goes on. So it's important to understand this. The beginning of Nimrod's kingdom is Babel. Now, in Babel, there was a tower erected. That's just the cherry on top of their defiance to God. The real deal is the kingdom. This is the forerunner. I don't know that I've ever heard anybody preach or teach on this, but this is the forerunner. This is our early glimpse of what Antichrist is going to attempt to set up, and will be successful to a certain degree and for a certain amount of time. So he had his little Antichrist kingdom, and it wasn't just Babel either. I'm going to turn the page. I'm going to go over to chapter 11. All right, I'm going to read fast. Genesis chapter 11. And the whole earth was of one language and one speech. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. Well, they wanted to reach up into heaven, right? They basically wanted to be God. Mankind without God. What did Satan say? First sin, pride. He said, I will ascend into the sides of the north. I will be like the Most High God. And the Lord, verse 5, came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have one language. In this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us, I guess there's a glimpse of the Trinity there. Let us go down and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them. The Lord scattered them, and then he separated them. The Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence the Lord scattered them abroad upon the face of all the earth. What we have now is the exact opposite of that. If this wasn't enough for you, let's just turn over to Deuteronomy, and let's look at a verse. Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 8. Deuteronomy 32 and verse 8. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance. You see, God is the author of nations. He is the author of nations. That's distinct people groups. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he also set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel, okay? Well after that fact of separating the sons of Adam. So that's what I wanted you to see. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam. Okay, so the Antichrist, and this is the one thing, forget about high taxes, forget about all these things, conservatives, and whatever that word is even supposed to mean, because I'm into like totally rebuilding. There's really very little, if anything, to conserve. Conservatives who have been on a long retreat, for about 30, 40 years, 50 years or so, they like to bring up a whole lot of subjects, but they never quite get this. This is the one that Marxism, communism, all those on the left are passionate about, and that is Project Nimrod, even though they may not describe it like that. This business of forcing down distinctions, barriers, nations, The Lord divided to the nations their inheritance. The Lord is the author of the nations when he separated the sons of Adam. Oh no, not now. The whole world believes that it's their duty to facilitate mass invasion is what it is, but it's a setup, and any Bible believer should be able to see this. If you have any discernment at all, you should be able to recognize this. It is very seldom that the people of God would find themselves in agreement with the extreme hard left who hates God, who always has hated God. It's the return of the Jacobins, the French Revolution. The Jacobins were your early communists. They tried things that were just absolutely incredible. There's no limit to the things that they did. Well, there is actually one limit. I won't even mention that right now. But these Jacobins, these lefties, stop calling them liberals, please. There's nothing liberal about them. That's such a weak term, and it does not apply to them. They're leftists, communists, Marxists, Stalinists, Jacobins is what they are. And we're following their language cues. We use their language, like hate speech and all these things, that are designed to punish one side and to let the other have a green light. And I'm sitting here watching the English riots. There's all kinds of videos up that you can see, especially on X, and you can see that the police just are standing down, allowing the Islamicists and the left to run around with claw hammers and machetes and chains and clubs and just assault people 15 on 1 to anybody that looks different from them, any native Briton that's walking around. And yet the full apparatus of the British government is against the quote-unquote far right, which translated, stop using that term, far right. I wish there was a far right. There's hardly any far right. There are normal people that are tired of seeing their little kids raped and groomed and knifed in the streets. And anyway, this whole ruckus started because one of the migrants knifed 3 little girls to death and stabbed a bunch of others. But this has been brewing for a long time. But this is just in one country. This Project Nimrod is being forced upon us at every step. And many conservatives, many politicians, the vast majority, are afraid to speak out because this diversity thing, I mean, beyond the whole climate debate and beyond this endless pro-life and endless pro-Israel stuff, this is the real agenda to set up Antichrist. Is Project Nimrod. Not what's happening in the Middle East. Not what's been happening in the Middle East all my lifetime. No, it's Project Nimrod. And this is what preachers won't touch. And I feel compelled to speak out about this. So here I gave to you Deuteronomy 32:8. And now I want to look all the way up in the New Testament. Paul preaching in Athens, and he's speaking to them, and he's dealing with the Epicureans and the Stoics. I love this verse. Acts 17 and verse 18, they said, "What will this babbler say?" What will this babbler say? Well, here's one thing that he did say. He said this in Acts 17 and 26, talking about God the Father. "And he has made of one blood all nations of men to dwell on all the face of the earth, and has determined the times before appointed and the bounds," that is barriers, that is borders, that is national borders of their habitation. For what reason? Why did God separate them? So they would just stop building the Tower of Babel? So they would stop trying to become a super race that didn't need God? Yes, but also he separated them for this reason. Verse 27, that they need their boundaries, they need all this that God has put in place, that they should seek the Lord, if haply, or perhaps, or hopefully, they might feel after him and find him, though he be not far, thank God, from every one of us. How is he not far from every one of us? Well, the law of the conscience, Romans 1. But anyway, that's another deal. So that's what the Bible has to say about this. And when I turn and I look when this show is over, this big Vanity Fair, all this violence and misplaced ideals and naivete, which is dangerous because good people get killed because people that have money and are calling the shots and they're in power are operating off of naive principles, such as believing that this somehow is ordained. This is their great mission in life, is to force everybody together. And secondly, that original sin, that the sinfulness of man doesn't really exist, and that we can have this big kumbaya. And when their plans fail, they're usually off the scene or they're in their gated communities, and it's the working class, it's the middle class, it's everybody that can't get away that pays, and they pay badly, and their sons and daughters are horribly mistreated. Let's just look here in Revelation 22 and verse 2, talking about the New Jerusalem. It says that the leaves of the tree of life. Oh, I'll read the verse. Revelation 22 and 2, in the midst of the street of it, talking about the river, and on either side of the river was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for humanity? No. The leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. So we just got through the millennial age now at this point. And there's been a new heaven and a new earth. New Jerusalem's coming down from new heaven, and it's coming down now. It's being established. And yet God still talks about nations, which is separated creation. That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. And lastly, it also says that this city has 4 walls around it. It has a wall completely around it, 4 sides. 4 square city of God. What an incredible thing. And yet here we are, being bullied, being propagandized, being humiliated, being punished, having our faces just wiped in the dirt, in the dung, by the left at every turn. They'll tell you when you can go in and go out. They'll tell you when you can go shop and when you can't. This is because good people have sat back and done nothing. And not to be negative, but this is supposed to be a real channel where we don't stray from troublesome verses. We don't stray from topics. If you got any topics you want to cover, put it in the comments, and we'll pray about it and see if we can have something that's biblical. But where was I going with that? Oh yeah, so another reason that we're in this situation is because of the weak-kneed, virtue signaling, ever compromising beta preachers, the credentialed experts. These people wouldn't know the power of God if it was standing right next to them. These people cannot seem to discern how Lucifer is moving in these last days. In fact, it's so bad they can't even see that Lucifer has been trying to pull off Project Nimrod throughout all creation. They still haven't picked up on it, and so they're completely mute about this subject. Well, I'm not going to be, because I feel compelled of God, of the Spirit, to speak on the full counsel of God. And some messages are going to be full of exhortation and encouragement, and some are going to be, with some housekeeping things about God said to do this, to do that, not to do this, not to do that, how the church is to be conducted, order in the church, hierarchy. And sometimes we have to preach on sin, and other times we have to get into deep things that Lucifer and the dark forces are pushing, and we have to sort of tie it all together. And I really want to be one who can push away the noise with the help of God and help folks to see the signal, as also I want to be teachable and hear the signal from others. So this book right here, I just read to you the verses. It is the opposite of what Antichrist and the left is trying to pull off. And we need to understand what God's will is. Yes, there are always people that no one's calling for some rigid type of segregation or anything like that. But when nations are under full assault in the forces of the devil, and you can see exactly what it's setting up, and we look at what the scriptures in the Bible, that's a far cry from having some diversity and having some people that came to your country and they love your country and they came in legally and they're supporting it. And even that can go too far, by the way. There's still such a thing as national identity. And I think that's why God did establish boundaries, back to Acts 17. Anyway, praise Jesus. And again, I don't need anybody to give me lectures with my background on this subject. So let's talk some Bible. But realize what the devil is about. Realize when the people that hate God, the powers that be that absolutely hate your God, that mock this Bible, that are tearing down the family, when they are passionate about the one thing they all agree on, I hope that you don't find yourself on that side of the argument.